Welcome to the Bee Family YouTube channel. Here, we bring unique and engaging stories to children. Each video is not only an adventure, but also an inspirational and educational journey. From dramatic stories to educational lessons, we focus on creating informative and entertaining content. Let's explore the world with Bee Family through wonderful stories and learn every day. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any adventures. Once upon a time, the cat and the rat used to be great friends. Once they decided to store up food for the winter together. The cat, who was the wealthier of the two, procured a firkin, and the rat got busy storing fat in it. Soon the firkin was full to the brim. One way or another, the dog got wind of it. He started snuffing about to find the firkin. The rat said to the cat, "It won't do to keep the fat at home. We've got to find safe place for it." "You're quite right," the cat agreed. "The dog has nosed it out already." So they took the firkin to the church and put it in the vault under the altar. One Sunday the cat said, "I've been asked to be godfather. I'm going to church today." "If you must, you must," the rat agreed. "Once you are there, make sure our firkin of fat is still whole." When the cat came home, the rat was curious. What name did they give their child? Lick-a-Little. A strange name, never heard it before. The rat squeaked. The next Sunday the cat said again, "I've been invited to be godfather again. I have to go to church." "If you must, you must," the rat agreed. When the cat returned, the rat asked him again, what name did they give their child? Lick-a-Half, a most unusual name indeed, the rat said. On the third Sunday the cat went to act as godfather again, and this time the child, he said, got Leave-a-Little for his name. On the fourth Sunday the cat said that his godchild was named Clear the Bottom. "Well, well, my friend," the rat exclaimed, "now it's plain to me what the meaning of those names is. At first you ate a little, the half the firkin, the only a little was left, and at last the bottom was clean. You've emptied our firkin of fat, you, my old friend? You glib-tongued liar, you sneak thief! You nitwit, you slow-witted animal, how dare you insult me?" The cat cried. He grabbed the rat and killed her. No rat has ever since sought a cat's friendship. Once upon a time, there was an old fisherman and his wife who lived together in a dilapidated hut on the beach. Every day the husband goes fishing, the wife stays home and spins yarn. One day, the husband went to sea to fish. The first time he pulled the net, he only saw mud. The second time he pulled the net, he saw only seaweed. The third time he pulled the net, he caught a goldfish. The fish cried loudly, "Oh, old man! Please forgive me and return to the sea. I will repay your kindness. You can have whatever you want." The old man was surprised, but then dropped the fish into the sea and said, "God bless you. You return to the sea and struggle. I don't ask for anything, I don't need anything either." Returning home, the old man told the story to his wife. The wife scolded, "Stupid! Why not catch the fish and pay for something? Can't you ask for a trough to feed the pigs?" The house trough is almost broken, so the old man went to the sea. The sea ripples smoothly. The old man called the goldfish. The fish swam up and asked, "Oh, old man! What do you need?" The old man greeted the fish and said, "Oh fish! Help me! My wife scolded me and nagged me so much that I couldn't stay still. She asked for a new pig trough. My gutters are already chipped," the goldfish replied. "Oh, old man! Don't worry anymore. Just go home. I will help you. You will have a new trough." When the old man returned home, his wife had a new trough. But she shouted even louder, "You idiot! Are you really asking for a trough? A trough won't seep in. Go find the fish again and ask for a big house." So the old man went to the sea again. The blue sea was churning. The old man called the goldfish. The fish swam up and asked, "Oh, old man, what do you need?" The old man greeted the fish and said, "Help me, fish. My wife scolded me more and wouldn't leave me alone at all. She asked for a nice building." The goldfish answered him again, "Oh, old man, don't worry too much. Well, let's go home. I ask God to bless you, you will have a large and beautiful house." The old man returned to his hut, but did not see the hut but saw in front of him a beautiful house, with a large gate made of ironwood, bright inside and out, with a fireplace, whitewashed, and his wife sitting next to him window. When she saw the old man come back, she scolded him like a splash of water in the face, "You idiot! How stupid is that? Just asking for a house. God! Go find the fish right away and tell me I don't want to be a common farmer, I want to be a first-class lady." The old man tottered out to sea again. The blue sea waves violently. The old man called the goldfish. The fish swam up and asked, "Oh, old man, what do you need?" The old man greeted the fish and replied, "Help me, fish. My wife went crazy again, she wouldn't leave me alone at all. Now she doesn't want to be a farmer anymore but wants to be a first-class lady." The goldfish replied again, "Oh, old man, don't worry too much. God will bless you." The old man returned again. He was surprised to see a large castle in front of him. His wife was standing on a high step, wearing a fur coat, a hat with many flowers, a pearl around her neck, a gold ring on her hand, and red shoes on her feet. Around her, the servants were bustling, and she was always scolding. The old man told her, "Dear lady, are you satisfied now?" The wife scolded him and told him to go down and clean the stables. After a few weeks, she got angry again and forced the old man to look for the fish. "You go to find the fish and tell it I don't want to be a lady anymore, I want to be the queen." The old man panicked and cried out, "What are you saying? Are you confused? You don't know how to walk, you don't know how to talk, but you want to be queen? If people know, they will laugh." The wife got angry and slapped the old man in the face. "Are you arguing? You dare to argue with a first-class lady? Go to the beach immediately, otherwise I will have someone drag you away." The old man had to flee to the sea. The sea is choppy. The old man called the goldfish. The fish swam to ask, "Oh, old man, what do you need?" The old man greeted the fish and said, "My wife is crazy again. She doesn't want to be a first-class lady anymore, she wants to be a queen." The fish replied, "Don't worry. Just go home. God bless you. Your wife will be queen." The old man returned and saw in front of the magnificent palace his wife, who had become a queen, sitting at the banquet table. The guards were pouring her precious wines from faraway countries and offering her delicious cakes. Surrounding them was a team of guards neatly armed with swords and spears at the head. The old man saw it, panicked, bowed down to the ground to greet his wife and said, "Hello, queen. Surely the queen is satisfied now." The wife did not even look at him and ordered him to leave. The guards rushed to push the old man out. The guards also ran to draw their swords and threatened to cut him. The people, not knowing what was going on, also ran to mock the old man. After a few weeks, the wife became angry again. She sent someone to arrest the old man. She said, "Go find the fish, tell it I don't want to be the queen, I want to be the dragon king sitting on the sea, let the goldfish serve me and do my will." The old man did not dare to disobey her words. He went to the sea again. A terrible storm came, the sea surface roared with waves. The old man called the goldfish. The fish swam to ask, "What's the matter, old man? What do you need?" The old man greeted the fish and said, "Fish, help me. Love me. How can I live with this evil wife? Now she doesn't want to be the queen anymore, she wants to be the dragon king sitting on the sea, to force the goldfish to serve her and do her will." The goldfish said nothing, swung its tail and dived deep into the sea. The old man stood on the shore and waited until he saw it answer, then returned. When he arrived, he was shocked. The castle and palace had disappeared. Before the old man's eyes he saw the old ruined hut, and on the doorstep, his wife was sitting in front of a dented pig trough. Hello friends! Tet is coming. 2024 is the year of the dragon, that is, the year of the dragon. So why do people use the names of the dragon and other animals to name the years? Please listen to the story of the 12 zodiac animals. Once upon a time, the Jade Emperor was the one who named all the animals in the world. And among them, he wanted to choose a worthy animal, using its name to call each year. Each year there will be a certain animal that represents and acts as the reigning lord, ruling the lower world instead of the Jade Emperor. After pondering and receiving the Jade Emperor's orders, on the appointed day, all animals in the lower world were excited, busy preparing everything to depart for heaven to meet the Jade Emperor. Register and hope to be theirs. Will be chosen to become the leader and lord of all species. The next day, Mouse woke up very early. On the journey to Tianman, he encountered a fast-flowing river. After waiting for a while, the rat planned to jump into the ear of the diligent buffalo, who was intently crossing the river and not paying attention to anything. The buffalo kept running towards the finish line. He could have reached heaven first, but the rat was one step faster than him when he jumped down from the buffalo's back and crossed the finish line first. The buffalo sadly finished second, followed by the two competing animals, the tiger. The cat is the animal that won the fourth place. Although it is fast, it is agile with the dangerous river terrain. It is very difficult for the cat to overcome. Although the dragon had the advantage of flying and should have been the first animal to arrive, it encountered a village that was suffering from a fire. Because we were helping and saving people, we could only make it to Thursday. The snake and horse came right behind the dragon in 6th and 7th place, respectively. The goat, monkey, and chicken all crossed the river together on a raft. When reaching the shore, the goat was given first place, followed by the monkey and the chicken. In order, the goat is 8th, the monkey is 9th and the chicken is 10th. Dogs are inherently good swimmers, but not bathing for a long time makes them passionate about playing in the water and playing in the river. Therefore, he only finished the race in 11th place, having a bit in common with dogs. Even though pigs possess incredible speed, they are animals that eat a lot, and when they finish eating, they become sleepy, which is why they arrive late. That is the explanation for pig's 12th position. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any adventures. Dear friends, I don't know when did our parents and grandparents have the custom of giving lucky money on Tet holiday. I heard my mother tell me that, long ago, in a small countryside, every time Tet came, the adults in the village gave small gold coins and lucky money to the children in that village, with the hope of bringing good luck and happiness. We invite you to listen to the legend of lucky money, in a small, remote countryside, when there were still many forests and mountains. People lived sparsely, and demons often appeared. Every night on the 30th day of the Lunar New Year, demons lurk and pat the children's heads. Therefore, children are often startled and scared. That year, there were 8 fairies passing through the village, hearing about ghosts harassing the villagers, so they stopped to help. The fairies told the villagers to bring gold coins under the children's pillows on the night of the 30th. The devil will not come again. Then the 8 turned into sparkling gold coins. The villagers were surprised and followed suit. The night of the 30th comes. Like every year, the demons come again. They came to the head of the bed where the children were lying. Just as he raised his hand to rub his head, the gold coins under the pillow flashed. They were scared and disappeared into the deep forest, and from then on, the devil did not come to scare the children in the village anymore. Villagers also maintain the custom of giving children lucky money every Tet holiday, with the hope of dispelling bad luck and wishing for good luck in the new year. Nowadays, lucky money is not just for children. Everyone gave each other lucky money and wished each other a happy new year. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any adventures. Once upon a time, in a forest, there was a huge elephant. The elephant was very arrogant and aggressive. Wherever it went, everything around it shook, trees flattened, and birds acted wildly. It did not respect the living environment of the creatures below ground. One day, while looking for food and following its old habits, the elephant crushed the ground wherever it went. The small ant nest along the road was also shaken. A little ant ran to the nest entrance and called out, "Hey, hey, elephant, can you walk a little more gently? My nest is about to fall." The elephant pretended not to hear and stomped its feet even harder, causing dust to fly blindly. Then the elephant stretched out its trunk and said, "Tiny ant, what can you do to me?" The ant felt so threatened and told itself to definitely teach the elephant a lesson. One day, an ant climbed a tall tree, waited for the elephant to pass by, and crawled into the elephant's ear. The little ant started biting, punching, and kicking the elephant's eardrum. The elephant was in so much pain that it screamed. It didn't know why it hurt so much. The ant then said out loud, "It's me, a little ant. Have you given up your aggressive habits yet?" The elephant realized that ants were crawling into its ears. It tried to use its trunk to suck them out, shook its head, and sprayed water in, but it couldn't get the ant out. Finally, too tired and in pain, the elephant surrendered and asked for forgiveness. "Little ant, please forgive me. I know my mistake." The little ant crawled out. From that day on, the giant elephant learned a lifelong lesson and lived in harmony with the surrounding environment. Once upon a time, in a magnificent palace, there was a beautiful queen. She gave birth to a lovely princess, with skin as white as snow and hair as black as ebony, and named the princess Snow White. Unfortunately, shortly after giving birth to Snow White, she fell ill and died. About a year later, the king took another wife. The new queen is also beautiful and elegant, but has a cruel heart. She has a magic mirror. She always asks the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror replied, "Please tell me, the fairest queen in the world." She was very happy. As Snow White grew older, she became even more beautiful. At the age of 8, she was as beautiful as a fairy, surpassing even the queen in beauty. One day the queen asked the mirror again, "That mirror is on the wall. Who in the world is as beautiful as me?" Then the mirror replied, "In the past, she was the fairest woman in the world, but today Snow White is even more beautiful." The queen heard this and became extremely jealous. From then on, every time she saw Snow White, the queen became angry. every day. Her arrogance and jealousy made her restless. She called a hunter and said, "Take this girl into the forest out of my sight. Kill it, bring its heart and liver back to me." The hunter obeyed and took Snow White into the forest. When he took out a knife to kill her, the innocent princess cried, "Uncle, please don't kill me, I will stay in the forest and not return to the castle." Feeling sorry for the little princess, he let her go. Just then a small buck jumped forward. He killed the deer, took the heart and liver and brought it back to the queen, lying that it was Snow White's heart and liver. The queen, without a shadow of a doubt, believed that Snow White was dead. Alone in the deep forest, Snow White was scared. She kept running, stepping on thorns and sharp rocks, causing her feet to bleed. Wild animals circled around her, but did not touch her. Her legs were tired from walking. At dusk, she saw a small wooden house and immediately went in to rest. In the house, everything is tiny, but beautiful and clean. On the table covered with a pure white cloth were 7 small plates. One plate had a small spoon, and 1 small cup. Next to the wall were 7 small beds covered with snow white sheets. Snow White was hungry and thirsty, so she ate a little vegetable and cake from each plate, and drank a sip of wine from each cup, because she didn't want anyone to lose their share. She was tired and wanted to sleep, but none of the beds seemed to fit her. One was too long, the other too short. She tried it until Saturday and found it suitable, so she went there to sleep. Late at night, the owner of the house returned. It was the 7 dwarfs who went to cut wood. They lit 7 candles. They felt someone had entered the house. One dwarf said, "Who sat in my chair?" The second dwarf said, "Who ate from my plate?" The third dwarf said, "Who ate some of my cake?" The fourth dwarf said, "Who ate some of my vegetables?" The fifth dwarf said, "Who used my fork?" The sixth dwarf said, "Who used my knife?" The 7th dwarf said, "Who drank into my cup?" The one dwarf looked around, then walked back to his bed. Seeing that there was a depression in the mattress, he said, "Who climbed into my bed?" The other dwarfs also came to their bed and said, "Who has slept in my bed?" The 7th dwarf looked at his bed and saw Snow White sleeping. "I called the others to come." Everyone was surprised. They held 7 lamps and saw the little girl sleeping soundly. Whist! Let her sleep. The next morning, Snow White woke up and told the dwarfs the story of being harmed by the queen. Moved by her story, the dwarfs took pity on the princess and decided to let her stay with them. From then on, Snow White stayed with the dwarfs. She does housework. Early in the morning, the dwarfs went out to chop wood, and until late in the evening, Snow White prepared food for them to eat. Every morning, the dwarfs told her, "Be careful to avoid scabies. Don't let anyone into the house." As for the queen, she was convinced that if Snow White were dead, she would be the fairest person in the world. She asked the mirror again, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in the world is as beautiful as me?" The mirror replied, "Once upon a time, you were the fairest woman in the world, but Snow White is much more beautiful today. She lives in the hidden mountains, at the house of the 7 dwarfs far away." Unable to sit still, the queen immediately thought of a plan to harm Snow White. She disguised herself as a grocer, went to the dwarf's house, and knocked on the door. "I have beautiful goods for sale here," she announced. Snow White looked through the window and asked, "Hello, what do you sell?" The disguised queen responded, "All beautiful clothes, belts, and hair ties." She then showed Snow White a very beautiful belt. Snow White liked it very much and believed that the old woman was not a bad person. She opened the door to let her in and chose the belt. Struggling to try it on, the queen told her, "My child, you are very clumsy in tying the knot. Come here, I will tie it for you." Snow White was not afraid at all and allowed her to tie the knot. The queen tied it quickly and tightly, causing Snow White to fall to the ground, unconscious. Having achieved her evil goal, the queen hurriedly left. That evening, the 7 dwarfs came home early and were frightened to see Snow White fainting on the floor. Luckily, the dwarfs were able to save her. Returning to the palace, the stepmother rushed to the mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in the world is as beautiful as me?" The mirror replied, "Once upon a time, you were the fairest woman in the world, but Snow White is much more beautiful today. She lives in the hidden mountains, at the house of the 7 dwarfs far away." Hearing this, the queen felt her blood boil with anger. She cast a spell to create a comb laced with poison and disguised herself as another old woman. Traveling a long way to the 7 dwarfs' house, she opened the door and said, "I have beautiful goods for sale." Snow White, looking through the window, loudly replied, "Go away, I'm not allowed to let anyone in." The old woman retorted, "Who forbids me to look?" She then showed Snow White the poisoned comb. Snow White was so enamored with the comb that she ran to open the door. The old woman said, "Let me brush your hair nicely." Snow White, without hesitation, allowed her to comb her hair. As soon as the comb touched her hair, Snow White was poisoned and fell unconscious. Satisfied, the old woman returned to the palace. Coincidentally, the dwarfs returned earlier than usual and found Snow White fainted on the floor with a strange comb in her hair. After they left, Snow White woke up and told the dwarfs everything. The queen, upon returning home, looked in the mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in the world is as beautiful as me?" The mirror replied as before, "Once upon a time, you were the fairest woman in the world, but Snow White is much more beautiful today. She lives in the hidden mountains, at the house of the 7 dwarfs far away." Hearing this, the queen became angry and shouted, "Snow White, you must die." She poisoned a beautiful apple that looked delicious and placed it in a basket of fresh apples. After preparing the apple, she put on makeup, dressed as a farmer, and crossed the 7 mountains to the house of the 7 dwarfs. She knocked on the door. Snow White stuck her head through the window and said, "I am not allowed to let anyone in. The 7 dwarfs have banned it." The farmer said, "It's okay. I have a lot of apples. Let me give you one." Snow White said, "No, you are not allowed to take anything." The old woman said, "Don't be afraid, this apple is very delicious." Having said that, she picked up an apple and ate it deliciously. Of course, she knew where the poisoned apple was. Snow White didn't suspect anything when she saw it. Besides, she also loves eating apples and reached out her hand to receive one from her. She bit right away, but she was poisoned and fell to the ground. The evil queen had achieved her ambition, white as snow, black as ebony. This time no one can save you. When returning to the palace, the queen asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in the world is as beautiful as me?" The mirror replied, "Your Majesty, you are the fairest queen in the world." At that moment, I felt at ease in my heart. The dwarfs came home to find Snow White lying on the ground, dead. They lifted her up, looking for any traces of poison, but everything went in vain. They looked at Snow White in despair. They put her on the bed. All 7 people sat around the body and mourned for 3 days. Snow White's body had been in the coffin for a long time, but her face was still fresh as sleep, her skin was still white as snow. Her lips were still red as blood, her hair was black as ebony. Finding it strange, the dwarfs decided not to bury it, but took turns looking after the body, hoping a miracle would happen. The next day, a certain prince returned home late from the forest and asked the dwarfs' family if he could sleep over. The prince learned the tragic story of poor Princess Snow White and asked the dwarfs if he could take Snow White back to the palace to look after her. Hearing the prince's sincerity, the kind dwarfs felt compassion and agreed to his request. The prince ordered his guards to carry the coffin away. However, one of the bearers tripped over a stone, causing Snow White to jump up and vomit the poisoned apple. Immediately she revived and stood up. The prince was extremely happy and offered to take her to the palace and marry her. Snow White happily agreed to follow the prince back to the palace, and the wedding ceremony was held very solemnly. The evil queen was also invited to the party. She dressed splendidly and went to the mirror, asking, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in the world is as beautiful as me?" The mirror replied, "Dear lady, you are absolutely beautiful, but the new queen is much more beautiful." Enraged, the queen went to the wedding party. She walked in and immediately recognized Snow White. She was so scared that she stood still, unable to move, and then her cruel heart broke, and she fell dead. Finally, the evil disappeared, and Snow White and the prince returned to the mountain to repay the dwarfs for saving their lives. From then on, the two lived happily together. One day, a tiger came out of the forest and witnessed a strange scene. A farmer and his buffalo were plowing the fields. The buffalo was working hard, but every now and then the farmer yelled at him and whipped his backside. The tiger felt puzzled and approached the buffalo, asking, "If you work so hard, why do you let that little person beat you like that?" The buffalo gently answered into the tiger's ear, "That person is small but has wisdom, my friend." The tiger didn't understand, so he decided to ask the farmer directly, "What is intelligence and what does it look like?" The farmer thought for a moment, then said, "My home is where my wisdom lies. If you want, I can show it to you." The tiger nervously agreed, and the farmer began to leave, but then he remembered something and said, "What if I let you keep the buffalo while I'm gone, and you eat it?" The tiger hesitated and didn't know how to answer. When the farmer suggested, "Or my friend, let me temporarily tie it to the base of this tree for peace of mind," the tiger agreed, and the farmer began to tie the tiger tightly to the tree. Then he piled straw around, lit a fire, and shouted loudly, "My wisdom is here! My wisdom is here!" The buffalo saw a very happy scene and laughed, but unfortunately crashed his upper jaw into a rock, breaking all his upper teeth. The tiger struggled for a long time before the rope broke. The tiger ran straight into the forest, not daring to look back. Since then, long black marks appeared on the tiger's body, traces of burns, and the buffalo lost all its upper teeth. In a peaceful forest, there lived a fast hare named Remy and a slow tortoise named Tessa. Remy often prides himself on his speed, while Tessa believes that patience is the key to victory. One morning, Remy and Tessa decided to organize a race to see who would win. Encouraged by deer and horse friends, Remy confidently entered the race, while Tessa moved slowly as usual. Starting the race, Remy quickly moved away from Tessa. However, when approaching the finish line, Remy felt that he was far behind the tortoise Tessa, so he decided to rest and play with bees and butterflies. Meanwhile, Tessa continued to move persistently. When it was past noon, Remy was surprised to realize that Tessa had passed him and was approaching the finish line. Remy hurriedly returned to the race. But it was too late. Tessa was close to the finish line. The race ended, Tessa won to everyone's surprise. In the end, Remy understood that it was not speed but perseverance that was the key to victory. One year, when the drought lasted for many months and no rain fell for many months, the hot sun caused the land to dry up, the plants to wither, and the lakes and ponds to become barren lands. The lives of all species faced the risk of dying of thirst, like a crowd standing before the sword of death. In that difficult situation, there was a crow perched on a dry branch, resting. The crow is hungry and thirsty and wants to find water to keep itself alive. Suddenly, it discovered a water bottle on the ground. The crow did not hesitate, quickly lowered itself and gently stuck its beak into the jar to drink, but the problem came from the vase being too small and the neck being high, making it impossible for the crow to drink a drop of water. Even though it tried its best, it still failed. In desperation, the crow discovered some pebbles. The idea shined in its head: use the beak to steal pebbles and put them in the jar. If I add more gravel, the water in the vase will rise higher. The crow does not mind the heat and go everywhere to find pebbles. After a period of perseverance, the crow returned with a large pile of gravel. It gently drops each pebble into the jar. Each pebble is a step forward, the water in the vase gradually rises. After the last pebble falls into the jar, it's time for the crow to happily drink a delicious sip of water. The story teaches us about creativity and patience in the face of difficult challenges.
Once upon a time, in a quaint village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a shepherd boy named Peter. His days were filled with the peaceful task of tending to a flock of sheep. The villagers entrusted him with the responsibility of guarding the sheep and keeping them safe from the dangers that lurked nearby. As days passed, Peter found himself yearning for a bit of excitement. The routine of tending to the flock became monotonous, and a mischievous idea crossed his mind. One day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow across the meadows, Peter decided to play a prank on the villagers. He climbed to the top of a small hill overlooking the village, took a deep breath, and cried out, "Wolf! Wolf! The wolf is attacking the sheep!" The villagers, alarmed by his cries, dropped everything and rushed to his aid. Concern etched on their faces, they reached the hill only to find Peter laughing mischievously. "There's no wolf, silly villagers. I just wanted to see how fast you'd come running," he exclaimed, relishing in his prank. The villagers, annoyed but understanding, shook their heads and returned to their homes, leaving Peter to tend to the flock once again. Days turned into weeks, and Peter's boredom persisted. One afternoon, while the villagers were busy with their chores, a genuine cry for help echoed through the valley. "Wolf! Wolf! The wolf is here for real!" This time, fear gripped the hearts of the villagers. They hesitated, remembering Peter's previous prank. Doubt crept in, and some chose not to respond, thinking it was another trick. But alas, the wolf was real. It had come to prey on the defenseless sheep. Peter, realizing the dire situation, frantically tried to protect the flock, but it was too late. The wolf scattered the sheep, causing chaos in the meadow. The villagers, regretful for not heeding the warning, rushed to help Peter. However, the damage was done. The lesson learned was clear. Dishonesty and pranks could lead to dire consequences, and trust, once broken, was not easily mended. From that day on, the villagers and Peter understood the importance of honesty and the consequences of playing with the truth. Once upon a time, in a small town, there was a rich and greedy man named Noble. Noble really likes gold and strange precious things. However, contrary to his greed, he loves his only daughter more than gold and silver. One day, Noble saved a fairy whose hair was stuck in a tree branch. Receiving the favor from the fairy, Mr. Noble greedily asked for a wish. Greed arose. He wanted everything he touched to turn into gold. The fairy accepted the wish. But when he returned home, his beloved daughter came to welcome Noble, and accidentally touching his hand, she immediately turned into a golden statue. He was heartbroken and extremely regretful. For the rest of his life, he searched for the fairy to ask for a way to reverse that greedy wish. Lesson: greed can lead to tragic consequences. The story reminds us of the value of love and the importance of not letting greed overwhelm our hearts. In a vibrant forest, there lived a clever fox named Felix. One day, a captivating aroma led him to a vineyard where a bunch of plump, juicy grapes hung from a vine. Eager to taste the sweet treasure, Felix leaped, but the grapes remained just out of reach. Undeterred, he eyed a nearby crate and, with cunning determination, dragged it beneath the grapes. Climbing onto the crate, Felix stretched and jumped, attempting to grasp the luscious bunch. Despite his efforts, the tantalizing grapes eluded him. Frustration set in, but instead of giving up, Felix huffed, "Those grapes are probably sour anyway." With a sly grin, he trotted away, leaving the grapes behind. The story of Felix and the grapes teaches us that sometimes, when faced with challenges, we rationalize our unattained goals. The clever fox continued his journey through the enchanting forest, always seeking new adventures and treats, with the memory of the elusive grapes lingering in the background. On a sunny and peaceful day under the cool shade of lush trees, Lion, the king of the jungle, was closing his eyes to enjoy a midday nap. However, this tranquility was shattered when a small mouse suddenly appeared, disturbing the king's peaceful slumber. Suddenly awakened and angered, the lion didn't hesitate to pounce on the little mouse. But instead of running away or pleading for forgiveness with cries, the mouse remained calm. "Please, king, don't eat me. If you spare my life, I promise to repay you someday." The lion scoffed, but decided to spare the mouse. This encounter later became a crucial part of both of their lives. One day, when the lion was wandering, he unfortunately fell into the traps set by hunters. Despite struggling, he found himself entangled in a sturdy net. At this moment, the mouse passed by and recognized his old friend. Without hesitation, the mouse quickly gnawed through the net, helping the king escape the danger. Grateful and joyful, the lion and the mouse ran into the deep forest together, where they could continue to live freely and happily. The lessons of kindness and tolerance had helped them overcome difficulties and live in harmony in the lush green world of the forest.
In that forest, Fox and Stork lived near each other's house. One day, the fox decided to invite the stork to his house for dinner. The stork happily accepted the invitation, and the next day, the stork came to Fox's house as scheduled. When the stork knocked on the door with his long beak, the fox opened the door and welcomed the stork. The two sat down at the dining table, and the stork felt excited when he saw a plate of delicious soup in front of him. However, the stork's joy did not last long. With its long beak, the stork could not eat the soup in the plate that the fox had prepared. On the contrary, the fox was enjoying the delicious dinner he had prepared. The stork could only watch and feel regretful. At the end of the meal, the stork's food plate was still intact. With an empty stomach, the stork sadly left the fox's house and decided to teach the fox a lesson. A few days later, the stork invited the fox to his house for a meal. The stork prepared an equally delicious soup, but poured it into a tall, narrow-mouthed jar. The stork held the jar in front of the fox and said, "Enjoy your meal, fox." The fox felt uncomfortable and inconvenient when he could only lick the mouth of the jar. In the end, Fox had to leave hungry, and at this moment, Fox realized his selfishness the day before. Lesson: don't live selfishly. Always be considerate of others and treat them as you would like to be treated.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Little Red Riding Hood, with a striking red scarf. One day, her mother gave her the task of delivering cakes to her grandmother's house and warned her not to go into the forest. However, along the way, Little Red Riding Hood was fascinated by the beauty of the forest, where there were fragrant flowers and lush green grass. Forgetting her mother's words, she walked into the forest and met the cunning gray wolf. The wolf learned about the girl's plan and quickly went to her grandmother's house, ate her flesh and dressed up as her. When Little Red Riding Hood arrived, she was surprised because her grandmother's appearance had changed strangely. The little girl asked, "Grandma, why are your ears so big?" The wolf replied, "My ears are big so I can hear you better." The little girl asked again, "Grandma, why is your mouth so big?" The wolf replied, "My mouth is big so I can eat you." In the end, the girl became a victim of the gray wolf. Luckily, a hunter passed by, heard the noise and quickly shot and killed the wolf. He saved the girl and her grandmother from a difficult situation. The story ends, Little Red Riding Hood, her mother and grandmother live happily together. And from then on, Little Red Riding Hood always listened to her mother's instructions and did not trust strangers.
Once upon a time, in a cozy little town, there lived a charming cat named Milo. Milo wasn't just any ordinary cat, he had a special love for basketball. Every day, Milo would watch the children in the neighborhood play basketball at the park. He would sit by the sidelines, his eyes wide with excitement. As he watched the ball bounce up and down the court, Milo dreamed of joining in the fun and playing basketball himself. But being a cat, he didn't know how he could ever do it. He didn't have hands like the children, only his nimble paws. One sunny afternoon, Milo decided to give it a try. With determination in his heart, he approached the basketball court. The children giggled as they saw Milo waddle onto the court. His fluffy tail swaying with each step, undeterred, Milo picked up the basketball with his paws and took a shot. The ball sailed through the air, bouncing off the rim and landing back into Milo's waiting paws. The children cheered in amazement. From that day on, Milo practiced every day, honing his basketball skills. He dribbled, he shot, and he dunked with all his might. And with each practice, Milo grew better and better. Soon enough, the day of the big basketball tournament arrived in town. The children formed teams, and Milo eagerly joined in. Despite being the smallest player on the court, Milo played with the heart of a champion. In the final moments of the game, with the score tied, Milo found himself with the ball. With a deep breath, he took aim and shot. The ball sailed gracefully through the hoop, scoring the winning point. The crowd erupted into cheers as Milo's team lifted him onto their shoulders, celebrating their victory. Milo beamed with pride, knowing that no matter how small you are, with determination and perseverance, you can achieve anything. And so, Milo the basketball cat became a legend in the town, inspiring everyone with his courage and passion for the game.